Historic Architectural Review Board to order at 6:05, 6:06, December 12th, 2023. And the only business that we have showing is approval of minutes. So without further ado, can we refer to those documents if necessary? Hopefully everybody's had a chance to review them. We have May, June, September, what's the other one? August, September. So, has everybody read and reviewed the information in the May minutes?
Yeah, why don't you just call for a motion to accept? We'll just go through each set and then do comment.
Correct. Sounds good. So is there a motion to accept the May minutes?
I say the date, please.
Oh, we have May 9th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Please signify your acceptance, approval by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Hearing none. Looks like it is approved by unanimous vote for approval of the May 9th minutes. Then we can move to the June 13th minutes. Is there anybody like to have, well, let's call for a motion to approve that, and then we can have discussion if there is any necessary.
So
The second, anywhere?
Second.
Thank you. So any discussion, any points to talk about? Okay, hearing none, we move to a vote for approval. All who approve signify raising their hand and saying aye.
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 Thank you. It sounds like everybody's in the aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the minutes of the June 13th, 2023 meeting have been approved. We can move to August. The August 8th, there were some minor revisions, I believe. I think that took care of everything that needed to be taken care of. So we have a motion to approve them.
So moved.
Second, please. Okay. Any further discussion? Anything else that needs to be addressed in that meeting minutes? Okay, hearing none, I would ask for a vote. All in favor of approving the minutes of August 8th, 2023, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
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 Thank you. Sounds like that is, any opposed? Okay, hearing none, I'd say that would be approved minutes for August 8th, 2023. Then we have September minutes of September 12th, 2023. Can we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, I looking for a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on those minutes? Hearing none. Let us move for approval of those minutes by vote. Indicate approval by raising your hand and saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
So that are there any negatives? Hearing none. I would ask then, or say then, that we have unanimous approval for those minutes of September 12th, 2023. So there are no other items on the agenda, though I had sent in a number of requests to review other items, including state of current approvals in, let me see, what did I say? Oh, there it is. So besides the approval, and we can take this up at your pleasure, I said, report by the staff on other projects in the historic district. And since we have a representative of the staff, Mike, could you give us any updates on, I guess the biggest one outstanding is the point?
I believe that is before the planning commission.
Okay, the latest I heard that was being considered by the Board of Supervisors. That's what I have. And they had given them an extension until the end of December. The first meeting in December for the Board of Supervisors was last Wednesday, correct, Mike?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So there's not one this week, but there'll be one next week. I have a comment on that, and I would ask that you consider if we might need to send some kind of message representation to the Board of Supervisors about the approval of a preliminary final review and approval for those plans. It seems to me that sometimes when the site plan has been approved, it kind of locks in certain relationships and sizes. And since we have not had a full set of plans that shows three-dimensionally or even by facades any of the information that we would normally consider in terms of the shape and the window sizes and even the massing of the buildings and the relationship to each other, that we should ask the supervisors to grant preliminary approval so that we can then have another discussion with the developer, because once it gets to final phase, it's pretty unlikely that they're going to make any changes. What say all of you?
Well, I agree. I don't know how they're skipping past us to begin with, but they have done it.
Well, that's hard to say, but Jennifer, do you have any insight?
I think that there's some stuff happening that we're not aware of, obviously.
Yes, well, they did approve the barbershop sign in spite of the fact that he did not come back, as he said he was going to, for a final sign off on it. I took the liberty of, and I think I copied you on the email that I sent to Mr. Grenier about this approval process at the end of or middle of last month, and when they were considering it, and at that point they asked for an extension, and at that point I made this plea that they take the step in that process, and I think it might be well to ask the powers that be, whoever controls the process, that any proposed work in the historic district go through all of the steps, schematic design for a site, the preliminary approval, and then coming back to us for a review for the final approval of the site plan. That doesn't mean that they have approval to do the actual construction. And, that's a whole different bit of information, but usually by the time that they come back to us for the third or fourth time, they'll have a pretty solid plan with elevations and the other information that we might require. So I know I said I was going to, at the discussion point that we had at the end of one of the minutes, that said that I was going to write to Mr. Majewski and give him some idea of what I considered the process. And I haven't done that. And before the end of the year, I will do that. But in the meantime, is it the consensus of Harb that we should ask for the due consideration of each of the steps, including preliminary approval, so that we can actually have them come back in and we can have further discussion? Because with the changes that were made, even though they were acceptable to the planning board, they might, and the zoning hearing board, that was the last approval that was actually made, I guess, the planning board, but they also had gotten an approval in the zoning hearing board for removing and rebuilding the Doherty house. So these are weighty considerations, and considering what they've done in the process of doing Flowers Fields and taking down the houses along Stony Hill Road, the two houses, one of which was supposed to be reconstructed. They've got the residential portion of that site already done, but it's going to be a lot harder to get them to fulfill their promises of rebuilding the one building that was removed. With those kind of things in mind, what is the consensus of the board about what we can do to forestall future, let's say, lapses in any kind of oversight?
You're bringing up some important points, Steve. Right now, we don't have the authority to weigh in.
We don't.
It's not written into our ordinance to be able to do this.
That's true.
So if you're considering pointing out the flaws in the current system and looking for amendments and new procedures to be put in place, we could certainly approach the supervisors and the manager and talk about that with the solicitor and just get the proper stakeholders in the room and work toward that. For this particular case, the only thing I could think of to do would be to request a courtesy review and see if it would be granted. But we really don't have any authority in this particular case because nothing has been modified to allow us to do that. Our guidelines, our design guidelines for applications for building permit, it doesn't have anything to do with zoning or even site development.
Correct.
Yeah.
Even though those kind of things sometimes do lock in.
Absolutely, they do.
And they're definitely considered in other municipalities. I know New Hope in particular is very adamant that whatever is coming down the line have a full approval from the Harb on every step. So I can go and do my best at lobbying, certainly have the ear of Mr. Grenier. But I don't know about any of the others at this point. And Mr. Ross is totally unknown quantity to me. Does anybody else think that they wish to have some kind of make some kind of presentation?
I agree. Like with Jennifer, I didn't realize we had no authority to do certain things. I think we need to see if we can get back into some sort of a process where they come through us to have the proper approvals. It just seems that they're just bypassing us, and it doesn't matter to them. It's just they're bypassing another hurdle that they don't need. So by not coming to us, it makes their process quicker.
No doubt.
So I just think that we should try to get something. I don't know if we can, but we should try to get something in place.
The only way that you can do that is going through the Board of Supervisors to get some type of amendment. Because unfortunately, HARB is only an advisory panel.
Right.
So unfortunately, that in legal terms means nothing. At the point to be blunt, and not to sound blunt, but I'm trying to be truthful with it. One thing I did want to add was we did work on a form on our new permit portal that I was prepared to show you tonight and share my screen, because one of the things we had talked about was the process with which applicants were coming and lacking the items that you guys wanted to see. So if you wanted, I could share my screen and show you what we have so far in our form, if you wanted to have some input as to maybe what you wanted or didn't want on the form for what you wanted to see when applicants come before you.
Well, I've put aside the time to do that kind of thing. If Jennifer, if you and Jeff are available, can we proceed a little further on this? Or
I'll take a few minutes.
Let's take a look.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So if can you see my screen now?
Mhm.
Yes.
So basically what we're looking at here is when somebody signs in, they create a password, a username and password. And this is the first step. They'll add the location or applicant. The first section is obviously their information and what their role is. So you have the choice between owner, lessee, agent, architect, contractor, attorney, whoever the representative may be. Fill that out. Description of work, type of work that's going to be done, if it's an addition, renovation, new construction, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you obviously can read this. We ask different things about if there's accessory structures there, if there's going to be a demolition done, what the steps of what the demolition is going to be, partial or full. Now, the more important thing, which I'm sure you guys want to see is, I'm sorry. And one other thing, we ask if there's signs on the property and then what type of signs they are. And they're going to have to get descriptions on that type of stuff. The better thing, which I'm sure you want to see, is down at the bottom, which is required. They cannot go any further in the application without listing these 3 items here that are in red as saying required, which says construction, architectural drawings, photographs of the structure, and list of materials. So that was one of the things I know that we had talked about in the past was lacking was the type of materials, the colors, and so forth. And that's basically, in a nutshell, that's pretty much what where the form sits as of right now. We were just trying to get the basics of the nitty-gritty of everything.
Has this been loaded or uploaded and is now part of the process, or is this just a proposal for it?
I don't understand. What do you mean? As far as like a permit?
This form that you have here, this page, is this now part of the overall township website? And
yes.
Oh, okay.
This
if I want to look at it, I see.
Yep.
If I can go and look at it, fine.
Yeah, you could go on. It's limited to what you can do, obviously, as a without being a staff member. But this is basically the meat and potatoes of it. So what happens is we receive a permit. It goes through zoning first. If we see that it's in the if it's historical in this Edgewood Historic Village, they're then required to go back and fill this out. And so the process gets stopped until they go through this process.
Mhm.
Well, this is a good start. I think in all likelihood, it's going to take more study and more consideration than the time that we had to look at it tonight. But if it's there and available, whoever has the interest can take a screenshot at the very least, and then mark it up and use it as a talking point for further discussion, either among ourselves or with the staff, especially Mr. Majewski.
I have a
As you
question
said, oh, go ahead.
as
Sure.
examples. We're not reinventing the wheel here. I'm sure there are other municipalities that do this already. Mike, is there other towns where you've taken some data or things that we should look at for inspiration?
We looked at Upper Makefield, Solbury, and I believe New Hope Borough.
Great. That's great because it certainly helps to have uniformity across the county. What about asking for samples, physical samples of things? We asked them to list materials, but we don't meet in person anymore. So is that not relevant anymore?
Correct.
I'm
Yeah.
sure
Since we kind of did away with the in-person meetings, we did do away with that. We felt that
Okay.
that wasn't a necessary step because, I mean, obviously with everything being electronic now,
Right.
I mean, if you guys requested to have or wanted to have something like that, I mean, I'm sure we can work something out if that's something that you still wanted. But I felt that it was important to have at least just this stuff here from, especially looking at other towns and
Right.
like you said, you hit the nail on the head, the uniformity across the board. So we're not doing anything out of the ordinary.
Yeah, this makes perfect sense. I think that if there were ever an instance where we would request a physical sample, it would probably be it would be a one-off, and it might be a material that we're not familiar with, or something that we couldn't sufficiently understand just in a virtual situation. So that's fine. Thanks.
Yeah, and I mean, if we ever come across that bridge, I mean, I'm more than happy to take samples and drop them off to your home so you have them available to look at.
Or leave them at the township for us to do a round robin and stop
Yeah.
by and take a look.
Yeah, whatever is easiest for you.
Thank you.
I'm very flexible, so whatever you want.
Great.
Looks like
Well,
a great,
okay.
looks like a
So
great
we're moving.
start.
Jeff, you said I'm sorry getting away. Anything further?
All I said was it looks like it's a great start.
Oh, a start. Yes.
Yep.
My point as well.
We're basically trying to use the KISS method, keep it simple,
Yep.
Yeah.
And then if some other things arise, we can then deal with them as they come. Just like as this portal went live back in February, and it took some months for us to kind of iron out some of the kinks and figure out that we need to change some things. I figured this would be in the same realm of as we use it, maybe as we go along, we realize there's something else that we want, or maybe something we don't need, or whatever, and then we can make changes as we go. It's very easy for me to make changes to this.
Right.
Okay, I guess the obvious question then is the whole process as kind of a description that can be added to the current guidelines that are in the township building, and probably they're now posted online, that the information and what times they're required or suggested that they get in touch with us and have some kind of review with us, even if it's preliminary and not for final approval, that we can have similar to what we did with the barn at the Miller's place, that we could have some kind of positive impact on the process. So I think if we can put our heads together on that and maybe have some further discussion at the end of some meetings next year, then we can maybe help you along, Mike, with the entire process, so that we can have it, published in the appropriate places, and utilizing this kind of format makes it simple, makes it less painful in some cases, and hopefully more expedient. So one of the other things I was going to hopefully have a word about, let's just further discuss on this whole item.
I'm good.
Okay. There was talk about continuing education. There's a training meeting tomorrow night. I think everybody's received notice of it at 6:30 at the Township Building in person from a representative of the state office. Hopefully people can make it. It's continuing education is required. I know I do some with the AIA requirements, or maybe you too, Jennifer, but this would be worthwhile. Jeff, if you can make it, we can fill out the form for Jim. Yeah. So, Mike, I don't know if there's any other critical points besides Troilo's, but I did notice that at the Prickett site, it seems like the tree that was the historic tree outside the barn is no longer there, or am I wrong?
I believe it's still there. They haven't removed any more vegetation.
Wow. It must be hidden by a big pile of dirt or something. It's really hard to see.
Well, they actually do have a very massive stockpile that will get used at some point, but it is obscuring a bit of the view.
Is this our news liaison, our supervisor?
That's who that is.
Your liaison for the next 28 minutes. I apologize for being late. We got a new puppy today, so the world is upside down.
It's on puppy time, you're saying?
Yes, we're on puppy time.
Okay. Well, as far as the other buildings in the historic district, it's seemed to me very notable that the ones on the point are deteriorating further. Pieces of siding missing, and the porch is almost non-existent anymore on the corner building. So I don't know how to deal with those things. Obviously, we're not a kind of a supervisory or policing type of board, let's call it, or whatever else that we can group. But if we keep our eyes open, maybe we can make note of these things and have them dealt with by the appropriate personnel. Mike.
I was gonna say I am that personnel. That'd be me.
Okay, not wanting to point any fingers, but so you can kind of take a look at that, because if we finally do get some say about what happens with Troilo, I would hope that they don't get their final approval unless there's some kind of commitment that the work on the buildings that are historic gets at least well underway before he begins construction of anything else. If we don't have any kind of hold over them once they get started and then get the things constructed that they want to have constructed, we're kind of stuck. It's not like we have any forcing.
So they did receive final approval at the last Board of Supervisors meeting. So their plans are approved.
On what? On
the point.
The point?
At the point. Correct.
Oh, so it was not a preliminary approval that was given?
We gave preliminary and final approval.
Oh.
They are cleared to move forward. We can certainly talk to Mr. Majewski to make sure that we reach out to them and try and understand and encourage them to start with some of that historic restoration work, or at least get those plans in front of you for consideration sooner than later.
Well, I had made a point with Mr. Grenier, and I don't know if he raised it during your discussion of that process that you had, but it seems to me that if there is no opportunity for us to have any further say in it, because major changes were made since we last actually had a meeting with them about what was going to be built, the relocation of most every building, certainly the drive-through from Yardley Langhorne to Edgewood Road, that now provides a throughway in a way, bypasses the corner. Not that people would use it that way. It's not wow.
It does not. So that has been, they've agreed to designate that as emergency access only.
I see.
And they are going to plant some form of, I believe the last discussion, they would plant some form of greenery or something to make clear to folks that this is not everyday use. It's not actually a driveway. We had contemplated preliminary approval in the last meeting. But, the builder was, they had felt that they had engaged everywhere, but they also offered to convert the parking lot from just straight up asphalt to pervious pavement in exchange for final approval, which I think meets our stormwater goals and, a lot of things that EAC has been asking for. So it felt like a fair exchange. They still need to come before HARB with their plans, and we can certainly reach out to them to find out how quickly they intend to do that.
Well, thanks for the update. Certainly that was one of the important questions, considering that there's an outstanding, and we had been in discussion with this before you joined our meeting. If you want to check the minutes when we finally get it, hopefully you'll see what our concerns were. The whole idea of giving some kind of leeway to the actual construction requirements for things like restoration, rebuilding, etc. That were there were promises made with Flowers Fields that the two houses and who were actually in the historic district, two houses on Stony Hill Road. One of them was hardly worth worrying about, but the other one was something that they had promised to rebuild.
Yeah.
And that has not yet been done after how many years? Almost 10 years, I guess, right? Of Flowers Fields. And so I'm very concerned personally. And I did bring it up as part of the discussion that we need to have some kind of progress on the actual restoration of the two buildings that are there. And as far as the demolition permit that was on the Doherty house, that was never agreed to with the HARB. So it's one thing that he tried to convince us of, but it was never a formal vote and never a formal approval on that. So he's going to have to face that when the time comes. And he's going to say, well, we already have approval from the supervisors. Which is one of those things that, if the supervisors want to offer a certificate of appropriateness without the advice and consent of HARB, it's something that they've done in the past, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't.
Mike,
and as long as
yeah, so let me ask, Mike, do you know if we have probably not the ability to withhold a certificate of occupancy, but at some point, do we have a hold during the construction process that we can kind of negotiate from if necessary?
No, not if you've already given them approval on those plans.
Understood. Okay.
Yeah.
One thing I'd mentioned before with HARB being an advisory panel was that, they were asking, and by that I mean the HARB panel, they were asking for more say in what happens with these certain projects, and certain applicants have been able to kind of skip over HARB and go up to the Board of Supervisors. But unfortunately, I said that those things need to be changed by the supervisors with amendments to ordinances and such to, codify that type of thing.
Yeah, the unfortunate situation, and I sit on planning, right? So, we deal with things in planning. They're a little bit similar, where sometimes developers are able to move past us a little quicker than we would like. We don't have a lot of authority under ordinances and under the Commonwealth law to really put a hold on things or slow things down, or we don't have much room to forcibly negotiate. It's really wouldn't it be nice if you complied with us on this, right? But it is definitely something that we can look at and discuss. I will make a note in the next supervisors meeting that we have concerns based upon the promises made by Flowers Field not necessarily being fulfilled. Okay. And then I'll look into the matter of the advisory nature of HARB, and if there's something that we can't maybe strengthen the teeth, right? That they need to make sure that you folks sign off on the architecturals before we give them the okay.
Yeah, and that brought up another item that I had forgotten about for coming into this meeting, but I noticed that the building across from McCaffrey's, the office building that was originally reviewed and discussed for months with HARB, has now had a new coat of paint that certainly belies the historic aspect of the building, which was one of the things, since it's right across from our historic commercial gateway. And I don't know if the supervisors were aware of the fact that Mr. McCaffrey had made a commitment to have plans reviewed of that site, maybe not in perpetuity, and I'm sure there's some lawyer who's going to say that, oh yeah, we did that as a courtesy for the first time around. But okay, so if you can have a little bit of background on that, that was obviously 25 years ago, and I was on the HARB at that point, and we got some nice trees installed, and so, the stonework, I think, was because of insistence by the HARB. So who knows? Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. It's certainly a personal preference and certainly a cost consideration. But this is a little background for you. Certainly welcome to your unenviable
to my first and final HARB meeting, because I am vacating my seat in 19 days as Mr. Ross was elected to the new term.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and I guess we'll see him, and if you can pass along our report and maybe check our minutes and before you do so, and if there's anything that needs to be further investigated, considered, or discussed,
and
we'll be happy to make a presentation.
I certainly have some good recommendations just out of these couple minutes that we've been talking. I will bring it up in my report at the next supervisor meeting, so it is on the record, read into the record at that meeting, and I'll make sure to communicate that over to the supervisors as well. And I believe they may reshuffle the assignments for the committees, so it may not be Mr. Ross who's your supervisor liaison once the new board is constituted.
Fair enough. Okay. Thank you. So those are the items I had to bring up. Are there any other items that the other members need to address?
Just a question now, Steve. Does that empty CVS building belong to Troilo as well?
I'm sorry.
The empty CVS building, does that belong to Troilo as well? In the village?
Which other building?
The building that CVS vacated on Yardley Langhorne Road.
Oh gosh, yeah. Dr. Hines, my wife, suggest that maybe he would like to put houses in there. Take down the CVS and put houses in there. Or they could make a great post office, he said, properly dressed up on the outside. She's always thinking, Helen's always thinking, I'm not sure you've met her, but
I
she
have not.
she's a historian, dyed in the wool and really adamant about preserving Edgewood Village. So,
Do we know who the landowner is there?
yeah, I think Jeff is correct. I think
It is Trollo. I looked it up.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, Mike. That was pretty quick. So, Mike, do you have anything else?
I do not. Just
Okay.
I guess whenever you guys get the chance to review that new form, if there's things you'd like to see added or subtracted, whatever have you,
We'll
let me know.
do. We'll do. Okay, then. Mike, would you like to offer a closing motion, like to adjourn?
Sure. I'll make a motion to adjourn the hard meeting.
A second that motion?
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Everybody have a great holiday.
Yeah,
too.
you all
Thank you.
too. Hope we'll see you sometime. And thanks for all your work this year. Good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.